Aaron Jackson Jr. was among the youngest, only 9 years old. Luby Jeter was 14, Timothy Hill, 13, Patrick Baltazar, 11. For almost 2 years, the bodies have kept coming out of Atlanta's rivers and woods, and week after week, police speak of sorrow and sympathy, but not a solution.
It's just a tragic, horrible nightmare that we're going through.
We're not in a position today to make an arrest.
There are cases in history that have gone on much longer than this has.
At Police Task Force headquarters, there are 27 faces on the wall, 26 murdered, 1 missing. The killer? There is a handful of sketches, no one the same, no one certain to be the person police want. Almost a year after the task force was set up, police can't answer who or why. They don't know how or where or even how many of the black victims may have been killed by the same person. One investigator says even if the killer walked in the door and confessed, there is not enough evidence now to convict him. A half dozen of the cases may be isolated, unrelated homicides, the victims found near home, killed perhaps by family or friends. But somewhere in the city of Atlanta, there is a person who has killed 15 or 20 boys and young men. The district attorney keeps a chart on the wall with names of the dead and room for more.
With my theory, the person is not abducted, not kidnapped, not snatched off the street at that particular time, but is willingly going with somebody for something, at least at the instance they get in the car. They're going to make some money, or they're going to meet somebody. They're going, starting off willingly.
Like many victims, JoJo Bell, 15, was a child of the streets, always in need of money. He worked for his supper once in a while at the seafood carryout and always asked the owner to give him a ride home.
He wouldn't walk the street at night because of the killing. You know, they used to joke about it. You know, he said, I ain't gonna let the kid snatch me. But someone did. Yeah, somebody did.
Bell had been a basketball buddy of Timothy Hill. Hill spent his last known night at the seedy shack on Gray Street, the home of a 63-year-old homosexual called Uncle Tom. None of the victims has been found sexually abused, but the obvious question intrigues investigators. Mickey McIntosh, one of the adults killed, hung around the same carryout where JoJo Bell worked.
You know, I have seen gays come down and see Mickey in the car with, you know, gays. They would be dressed all up and stuff. They'll come by here and sometimes look for Mickey.
Atlanta's safety commissioner will say only what he doesn't know.
Where we are in the investigation right now is we do not know the person or persons that are responsible, therefore we do not have the motive.
The killer seems to taunt police and read press clippings. After a well-publicized but futile search along a road in an outlying county, the next child strangled with a rope was dumped there. And when a suburban police official criticized Atlanta's investigation, a child choked to death was left just inside that official's county line. After a press report that police had found fibers on some of the bodies, 6 of the last 7 victims have been dropped into rivers, all stripped to their undershorts or less, possibly to wash away.
It's called Finding Myself. What's finding myself? It reads like an autobiography.
Go ahead, I'm still trying.
It's a account of your CIA training.
We're not going to get into that.
Why not?
We're not going to get into that.
I got a copy of it.
Yeah, but we're not going to get into that.
Why not?
You're just simply not going to get into that.
By his account, Wayne Williams was fresh out of high school, just 18 years old, when he was initiated into a secret world.
So, I'll do the talking part, and you can answer what part of it you want. You write how you fired rifles, submachine guns, handled assault weapons, grenade launchers, C4, learned unarmed combat techniques through this training group over weekends. Is it true or is it false?
I'm not going to comment on it.
When you're 19 years old. You're saying you work for the CIA. You've been recruited.
I'll let the document speak for itself. I'm not going to comment on it.
Copyright 1992 by Wayne Williams. Is this an autobiography?
I cannot comment on that.
Were you trained in unarmed combat techniques? Could you grab somebody bigger than yourself, put them in a chokehold? Because that's what that is.
I'm sure there are other things in unarmed combat besides putting somebody in a chokehold.
But when I talk to the military experts and I say to them, what exactly does that mean? That's one of the things on their list. Top 2 things, by the way.
I wouldn't doubt that.
So, are you trained in that or not?
Let me say this. Let's just say that I had some experiences that I do not want to comment on today for reasons that the document says, okay? The fact is, what does that have to do with the situation today?
Everything.
You tell me.
It has everything to do with it. A big part of the conversation when I talked to your lawyers was, could Wayne Williams grab somebody? Did he have the strength? Look how, he's not a big guy. Could he grab someone in a unarmed combat technique and kill them? It's actually a very simple question. Can you kill someone with a chokehold? And when you were 19 years old,
you probably could under the right
I know for a fact
circumstances.
I could not. I know you're being facetious, but I know for a fact I could not.
You don't know.
But were you trained as a teenager to do that? Because that's what you're writing in this.
All
And
I can
I
say-
get CIA, you don't want to talk about it. It's all off the record.
Let me state this for the record. Okay. I think in the paper that you have, and I will say this, that it says that there was contact with a certain program. And I will say it was the Junior Officer Training Program, which was run by a certain agency, and you're correct, CIA. But I never said that I worked with them. I simply said
Now who's splitting hairs?
that I
Were
had
you trained?
some contact
Were you
with some
trained?
person, and that's all I'm going to say.
Were you trained
That's all I'm
in
gonna
these
say.
techniques?
That's all I'm going to say.
So Soledad, after all these years, why doubts here about Wayne Williams?
Wayne Williams today is in his 50s and he is serving 2 consecutive life terms. But many people don't realize that even though he was convicted as the Atlanta child murderer, he was actually convicted of the murder of 2 adults. And there are some parents of the children he was never held to trial for those murders, but they were able to clear 23 of the 29 other cases involving children. So there are some parents of those children, the victims, who say, well, actually, my child's case was never brought to trial. I don't necessarily believe that Wayne Williams was the killer. It was never tried. A lot of people don't realize that he was convicted of 2 murders, and I think there are some people who feel that he is not necessarily guilty of the crimes.
Yeah, and as you were saying, some of the parents, I shouldn't say a lot, but some of the parents don't believe, and some people don't believe he could have killed so many people. So here's my question to you, because I saw you sitting there, and
I mean, keep in mind, and I'll stop you there, because keep in mind, Wayne Williams, even the guy who was dealing with the fiber evidence said to me when he pulled up to see the house of the man he knew would be eventually named the suspect, he said, I couldn't believe it. It was this middle-class house.
Right.
It was, and how could you possibly, how could it be someone who was living at home with his parents? It seemed like logistically it couldn't be.